Also, I got an error on my unit setup, so let's come down here and make sure that we're running the same. Okay. Alright, so let's see here, front view. The image planes are not coming in, so I'm just going to kind of wing it here and what you have. This is looking a lot better. Okay, it looks a little narrow in here, so let's go ahead and clone him over. Mirror. And we're going to just instance that. Okay, so here I'm getting a little bit of a discrepancy in the pivot point, so let's turn on the grid and see what's going on here. Alright, he's a little off center, so what I'm going to do first is go ahead and correct that. I'm going to bring him on center, and right up here in the hierarchy tool I'm going to affect pivot and bring that on over. So it's at 0, 0, 0. Just go ahead and type that in. Make sure that it's accurate. Okay. And now that the pivot point is on, we'll go ahead and try that again. Let's delete that side and mirror. Okay, so we got a more accurate shape here. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that he's a bit squashed in the center, isn't he? So that's pretty easy to fix though. So let's go ahead and select both parts, my control key down. I'm going to come up here to the modify panel, and with both parts selected, you can do this. You can apply an FFD deformer, okay, a box. I'm going to select the box because that allows me to plug in my own number of points. So right down here under FFD parameters points, I'm going to increase my number of points just so I have a little bit more control in areas. Okay, now let's see. Alright, just by winging this, I don't have the image planes to go by, but what I see is that his hips and legs seem to have some pretty good proportion, but then his chest seems a little bit narrow, and the head also looks a little bit narrow. So what we're going to do is open up the sub-objects for the FFD box and select on control points, and then what I'm going to do is just gently pull those. Now, since I don't have an FFD box down the center or point, I'm going to create one because I definitely don't want to move it off center. So let's go ahead and give it odd numbers here, and you can see that now I have a lattice point right here at the top. So when I come here and move this lattice, it's going to do that without moving it off center. But I want to move them at equal proportions, so with my control key down I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to use my scale tool. You see how that's going to be scaling it proportionately now. So I'm going to do that again. Let's take a good look at this beforehand. I'm going to go with the heads rule. One head equals half the neck, and then two heads down to the waist, another head down to the groin area, and then two heads to the knee, two heads to the heel. And the same is true for I can do a heads rule also for the chest. Usually it's 2 heads wide, and a head and a half to the elbow, and a head and a half to the palm. So we've got we've also, it looks to be a pretty thick neck here, so we're going to also come in here and work on that just a little bit. So with this selected, I can see that he's a little narrow in the control key down, a little narrow in the chest, so we can come in here and expand that chest a little bit. And that's, you see that's taking the arms too far. So what I'm going to do is, it may be that his head might be a little too large, huh? Alright, so it's a little dangerous to do without your visual reference, but let's go ahead and give it a try. You are going to be shaping this up according to your own visual reference, but hopefully this will help you give you some tools on how to do that. Alright, I'm going to make him a little bit thicker in the waist. These men are not as curvaceous as women are through that area. They actually, the lats come down pretty far, and then you have the natural fat pack at the top of the hip bone there. Which prevents the male from getting really narrow through there. They usually get more narrow in through the hip bone. Alright, so we've got a little bit more depth in there, and I'm thinking what's going on is maybe the hands are too, maybe the hands are too long. But you're not going to know until you actually begin to compare that with your photo reference. So I'm going to, oops, just moving rather quickly. Okay, now usually it's palm to tips of fingers is from chin to the hairline, which is a little bit short of one head for the length of the hand. So let's see what we have going here. We could probably afford to give him a little bit more thickness in through the thigh. Alright, it's looking good. Now when you come in here and begin detailing this, you'll want to give yourself more edge loops in the elbow area. And so now that we're done looking at this from the front view, we're going to go to the side view. So I click L on my keyboard there, and you've got a real good stance going here, but I see that it looks a little less full than we want him to be in the back. So let's go ahead and see what we have here. Control points. I grab the control points here, and with my move gizmo, I'm just going to pull this back a little bit more and give him a nice crown. Now with men, it's also advisable to keep the neck a little bit thicker and not so much curvature back here. We'll save that for women. Excuse me. And I'm moving this down just a little bit here to give a nice curve here. And I may even grab this point. Again, it pertains to your visual reference, but usually you find a little bit more flatter portion of the arc for the head right in here. Now you got some really good profile here. I would recommend bringing the chin out, even if your visual reference doesn't have that, just because a stronger chin, stronger mandible area in through here is more flattering on a male. It's more acceptable for strong men. So we'll bring this up a little bit, just ever so slightly, give him a little bit more neck here. Now, let's go on down before we flatten that. Okay, well, this is looking really good. You've got good posture here. I see there's just a little bit too much curvature in here, so I'm going to fill out the back of the leg a little bit more. Give him a nice strong thigh. Alright. So good. Alright, now the natural pose is you want to make sure that the ear, the center of the ear, is even with the ankle bone. That's my typical measurement. So I see he's a little bit far back on the legs, and even if your drawing is so, go ahead and bring it forward just a little bit to make it a little bit more comfortable rest pose there. Alright, so he's looking really good. Let's go ahead and go to the top of our FFD box, stack, right click, collapse all. Okay. And it's looking pretty good there. So now what I'm going to do is come in here, grab one side, face forward, and let's work on your neck just a little bit here. I'm just going to be pushing and pulling verts to get a nice shape in there, because there's very few. You've done a great job at keeping this mesh nice and light and easy to work with. We're going to raise up here we go. Fill that area out just a little bit. There's a nice muscle group in there that's nice and full and strong. Muscle that comes right up the back of the neck there. Make that nice and strong. Okay, look at it from all angles, but push and pull within two. Okay, get all these positioned well. This has just come so far. You're really doing an excellent job at getting this all filled out. Now the back of the head is a little bit more round than the front, of course, because with all those features back there. The widest part of the head, though, is right above the ear. So you want to try to get that in there. Alright, make sure that you've got a nice full round there we go. Full round skull back here. When that starts to subdivide in the high resolution package, you're going to be really happy with the silhouette there. Alright. Okay. Let's take our beard down. Alright, and then you'll just want to continue to work in reference to your visual. Nice thick neck here.